If you're like me, following the news cycles around AI, you're hearing one thing again and again. Is this a bubble and when will it pop? As someone that has worked in the industry for 8 years, as the CEO of an AI education company, I've followed this religiously, like with fixation every day. And I've got some contrarian beliefs that I think you're going to find super interesting around AI as a business use case is only going to accelerate. The way that it will disrupt and reshape our economy is actually understated. The need for politicians to have the right regulation and actually help make sure that all Americans are achieving the American dream here with AI, not just the billionaire class. Man, that's a super important one. But here's the most interesting one. The only reason I fear the AI bubble will pop isn't because of OpenAI and crazy valuations. It's because of the American energy grid. And I don't hear nearly enough folks saying the same and advocating for the policies that we need in DC today to actually make sure that we do win the AI arms race with our growing adversary, China, who is lapping us in all of these key critical technologies. But at the same time, how do we root it all in the American dream? How can the AI revolution support you, me, and our peers in the working class actually usher in an era of abundance? And also, how can we achieve the key energy needs to fuel AI, to make energy cheaper for the rest of us, not drive up the costs, and as a really nice byproduct, actually address the looming climate crisis? So here's how I'm going to tie all of these things together quick. And it starts with, unless you have your head in the sand, it is hard to miss the fact that AI has commanded the news cycles, but also it's commanded almost $400 billion in CapEx, like hard industrial build out just from the Magnificent Seven. Meta, Amazon, Google, OpenAI, Anthropic, NVIDIA, $400 billion of new investment into hardware, which is a whole new concept. It's the chips that go in the data centers that actually fuel it's the backbone of us winning the AI arms race. What is that meant for the American economy? And this is the one that's going to blow your mind. So far in the first half of 2025, this doesn't have anything to do with political policies or anything else. 92% of new GDP growth in the US is directly attributable to that AI boom. 92%. What does that also mean? This isn't just high stakes for Larry Ellison and Oracle and Sam Altman and Mark Zuckerberg. It means that you're in my retirement account. If we're in the S&P 500, debatably up to 85 to 90% of the stock market's gains are also directly attributable to AI. It's mind-boggling. One of the ways that I think it's really interesting to put it, this is a little bit financial jargon, but if you look at net earnings gains, meaning like the profit of the big tech companies in the S&P 500, those big tech companies, their earnings has expanded by 33% this year. If you take out the AI-driven technology sector, the rest of the S&P 500 has expanded 2%. 33% if you're associated with AI, 2% for the rest of us. Another way to put it is if you're the US without AI and you look like Europe, Latin America, some of these other like much slower growth markets, they're seeing their economies like stumble along. Where what we've experienced, and the reason the economy has been propped up despite some of the bad economic policy coming out of Washington, it's because of AI. The boom is here, and as a builder myself, it has been the craziest wave to surf. in my 8 years. And for all the hype of is this a bubble or not, I'll just address it in one simple statement, which is if OpenAI and Anthropic and all the other big LLM producers, if the scaling laws, the efficacy of their incremental new LLMs slowed down, still the AI that exists today is so game-changing for companies like educators, for customer support, for law, for all of these really massive markets. If the AI stopped improving, it would still cause such a seismic disruption that I believe GDP would continue to grow at that same 2% clip that we've averaged. And if AI continues to grow and the scaling laws maintain, the US is looking at a really substantial GDP growth rate acceleration. The bubble ain't bursting. The train has left the station. AI will be the disruption to the American economy. What's going on right now, I believe, for this century, the 50 years before and after today. But here's where, for all the talk of NVIDIA and TSMC and ASML and all these kind of key chip producers and all the big deals that OpenAI is cutting left and right, it feels like they're announcing one per week. The fundamental building block, the precursor to all these big chip deals and data center buildouts that are historic, is the energy. Of the ways that I've been studying it, and you can put it really simply, it is that in this next decade, anywhere from 30 to 50% of new energy produced in the US will go to the AI boom and data centers. A third to half. And then the other big drivers are things like remanufacturing in the US. The biggest one after that is electric vehicles. That's another 20% net new energy needed to drive US markets. And now I'm just going to keep drilling down. What are some of the other headlines that maybe you and I have seen? The one that I find really fascinating is, at first glance, I got really excited on how the data center build out will actually be really value additive to local economies in places like Virginia and Pennsylvania and Texas and Arizona. It's like, oh my gosh, this will create millions of new jobs, drive huge GDP growth in these regions that will totally benefit from it. And my quick assumption was, and they're going to welcome them with applause, saying, data centers, OpenAI, come to Arizona, come to Tucson, and create all these jobs for us that are well paying. And yet, what have I seen in the last just 2 or 3 months? I've counted 20 different data center projects that had actually gotten vetoed by the local, and like whether it's regional or city councils, saying, hey, we don't want your data centers here. We don't want them. When I first saw that, I saw the first one and I was like, wait, what? What's wrong with 10,000 new jobs and jobs that pay 6 figures? Like, oh, this is a no-brainer. What? So far, there have been cases in almost half of all states, 24 states so far, that have experienced a data center project get denied by local governance. That accounts for $64 billion in new investment that was already allocated. They got denied. They got shut down by local governance. Like $64 billion that wasn't invested. And the reason, and this is where it all starts to come together, is what these communities have already seen beyond the like noise pollution and like, okay, yeah, I got it, eyesores. It is the fear of energy grids being overburdened, leading to blackouts, leading to like skyrocketing energy costs in a place like Tucson that already has pretty high energy costs. It's freaked out the local communities. It totally has. And that isn't an issue of the community. That isn't an issue of OpenAI, who's trying to help the US win the arms race. It is an issue of our federal and state regulators and planners that have denied the core energy needs in our nation for a generation. Right now, if the U.S. stays on the path that Trump's administration has outlined, the rate of energy blackouts in the communities that host data centers will grow by 100x by the end of the decade. 100x more blackouts. It hasn't really materialized yet. It's a little bit more fear-mongering. But man, the trajectory that we're on in 5 years is that there will be an energy crisis. And unless we're creating the new energy that we need, Meta, they can pay for it. Apple, they can pay for it. Google, same thing. It's the local communities that can't. And it is incumbent on our political leaders to get ahead of that ball. The writing's been on the wall for so long that no matter what, the U.S. needs new energy build out. I've got elements of Biden's administration that I'm happy to celebrate, and I've got elements that I got issues with. But his investment into renewables and nuclear was totally applaudable, critical, a great idea. Because when you let's break it down. This is like the super quick science lesson. In the U.S., I'm doing this from memory, but it's something around like the current energy allocation. It's almost like 45%. I think it's 43% natural gas. This is just in electricity, and then you kind of keep going down from there. 15% coal, and then 8 to 10% for all the different energy, like renewable elements. It's like 10% wind, 8% solar, nuclear's in that 12 to 15% range. Point being, it's still massively fossil fuels. But to bring on a new megawatt or gigawatt of energy and electricity, if you leave politics aside, the cost to build out, once again, a new unit of energy on solar and wind is quite literally 50 to 60% cheaper than fossil fuels, nat gas and coal. It's 50% cheaper. Guess what else? Takes, right now, the last nuclear plant the U.S. built took 15 years. 15 years is, we don't got time for that. To build out most coal plants, 5 years, maybe 4. Even nat gas is 2. If you're doing it correctly, solar can take 6 to 12 months. It's quantifiably half the time to spin up, half the cost to spin up, and then the incremental or the marginal cost per watt of energy is also half the cost. Like quite literally, everything is twice as good if you're using solar. And wind, there's a couple detractors, but the cost is even cheaper once it's set up. It's super empirical. And I tried to read the kind of the counterfactual or the counterargument, and I haven't found one that's credible beyond Trump saying that the windmills are an eyesore and they kill birds. Okay, interesting. But what has the Trump administration done? In this one, I've been trying to, once again, call balls and strikes as I see them in the Trump administration. If I see something that I find in America's best interest, something that's truly America first, I will get up and applaud just like the rest of us. But for Trump to mandate a national energy emergency and aggressively deregulate fossil fuels, drive up subsidies, lower the tax basis, and all of a sudden unlock, literally today, I just saw the headline come across my phone, that he just created this huge new permitting in Alaska and some of like our most protected wildlife and nature for oil to get drilled. Okay. There's like a dogma to it, a political bias towards supporting the fossil fuel industry, to the point that today fossil fuels get 9 times more government support and subsidies than renewables. 9 times more. And I'm not getting into the carbon emissions or the fact that the U.S. is on track to run out of fossil fuels potentially in a decade. Skipping all of that, for Trump to call it a national emergency and to do those things, it's like, okay, well, he's trying to accelerate energy. I'll give him kind of the, I'll play along, or I'll like listen, and then at the same time to systematically shut down all of the federal subsidies and investments in renewables, to block permitting, and to like wage information warfare against renewables in a way that is actually undercutting the other half of our energy puzzle. You aren't solving the emergency if you're shutting down the cheapest and fastest energy sources being solar. It's really, that's the part that I can't give any credence to. It doesn't make any sense to me. When in this moment, what the US needs is more energy, not less. And then it gets to the spooky part, which is right now, when I hear naysayers say, oh, it would be too costly, too time intensive for us to rely on nuclear and solar and wind. There's one case study that's done it to near perfection, and it's our chief adversary, China. Right now, as we speak, just in nuclear alone, China will go from half the number of nuclear reactors that we have to double this decade. From half to double. The time and cost that it takes them to spin up a new nuclear reactor is 2 to 3 times faster than the US. On the renewable side, China last year created more renewable energy in a year than the US has ever had in history. In 1 year. Right now, it's funny little terms, but like a terawatt, the US basically has like 1.2 terawatts of energy. And we're hoping over the next decade to go from basically 1 to 2 terawatts of energy. And at the same time, China's going to go from 3 to 6. Triple us. And it's all by lowering their reliance on fossil fuels and coal, which historically they've had a huge reliance on, and completely renovated their entire energy grid, including the actual kind of futuristic like battery system that allows renewables, which right when the sun doesn't shine, you want to put the energy in a battery so that it can be allocated when it's cloudy. That's the basic idea of intermittency. China's done that as well. So not only is there a case study of what could be executed in the US, it is getting executed by the country that we should be paying the most attention to, China. Where does all of this boil down? There is a future reality that I fear we are moving towards, where the US continues to self-sabotage on our energy investments in a way that causes more rolling blackouts, higher costs for the American working class, and causes such resentment towards AI that it actually accelerates popular discontentedness in a way that then fleshes out in new regulation against AI and slowing down data center buildouts. When once again, that is 92% of our GDP growth right now is attributed to this one sector that 5 years ago no one was talking about. So here's where I always want to end, and that is, what do I wish I was hearing in Washington? Because I personally am so compelled by the way that AI can help us all as a nation achieve the American dream, to lower the cost of healthcare, lower the cost of energy, lower the cost of education, personalized education. There are so many of these ramifications that I get really excited about. What I wish Washington was saying is similar to this Ezra Klein narrative of abundance. We are on the doorstep of a new era where, if executed properly, the US can be a leader in energy production in a way that doesn't pollute your towns, in the way that doesn't create the tens of thousands of deaths that are caused by the pollutants from coal in particular, in a way that, most importantly, lowers your and my cost of energy by 95% so that it's negligible. The US could and should have free or abundant and near free energy for everyone. Most importantly, the working class that needs it, that can't afford the sky-high energy bills in the summer when they need to run their AC in Arizona, much less when a data center comes into town. How do we achieve that goal for you, me, and the people in our community? How do we maintain our lead in the AI arms race? And how do we do this with an eye towards an energy renaissance that actually, if done properly to achieve that, creates, I've read all these different reports, 10 million new jobs in America that are typically, if they're in the clean energy, renewable space, they typically pay 50 to 60% more than other energy domains. It's cheaper, it pays more. It's like, oh, all of this just accrues value to the American achieving the American dream. That's what it should be laser focused on, not the fossil fuel lobbyists and the big donors to certain administrations. That's not the goal. It's 10 million new jobs, abundant and near free energy, winning the AI arms race, not just trying to catch up to China, but passing, exporting this clean energy tech that we have been creating and patenting to other nations that desperately need it. That's a vision that could be achieved under one administration over 8 years. But really simply. And if we do that as a byproduct, instead of allowing the climate crisis to be this really partisan issue that we don't make any progress on, this is the solution as a byproduct. If we create a new terawatt of clean energy, that changes the game for the US carbon emission rate and changes the trajectory from a world that I read a lot about and I don't speak about a ton, but it's a world where in 2050, instead of what I saw, 5 million refugees from Syria flood into Europe and all of the downstream effects of that, the climate crisis is expected by 2050 to create 200 million new refugees. That's it's kind of the rate of extinction amongst our animal kingdom is growing by 1,000x compared to historic norms. There are going to be so many downstream effects if we don't solve our energy needs now. And you can't. Once Pandora's box opens, there's no going back. And it's not only this generation, it's like the next administration that kind of has the last chance before the opposite happens at every level. China passes us, our energy costs balloon, and the climate crisis spirals. So there's an aspirational story there that I want to help tell. And it's foundational right now to the thing that I'm working the most on, which is AI. Same with my peers, same with friends at Meta. If we don't get our energy plan straight, we're in trouble. But I want to be part of the aspirational vision. So if you've made it this long, thanks for listening. This is a little bit of a deep dive. I did it all from memory. I've got like 4 bullet points here just to keep my head on straight. But if this was interesting, send it to 2 friends. Shoot me a text with your thoughts. This is another one of these topics that I'm super passionate about, and just think is underrepresented. So, another episode down. See y'all next week.